Item D, discussion by council, board action on transfer of budget line item to North Smithfield Police Department. Mr. Parmelee.
2 meetings ago as well, I presented some budget transfers that we went through. About a week and a half ago, the police chief requested me to make a budget transfer, and I told him I do not have the authority in the fourth quarter for our charter. The town council does. The police chief is requesting that we transfer an amount of $22,579 from unexpended comp time payout to be transferred against the overtime line item for police. So comp time payout is much less than anticipated, overtime is more than anticipated. They would like to transfer the surplus to the overtime line item.
Is there professional opinion?
Well, ultimately, the effect is zero,
Okay. All right.
because it's just transferring one budget amount to another amount. So effectively, it makes no difference in the operations at all.
What is the amount of overtime?
The budget is $195,000. The current year to date is $240,000, so it's over by about $45,000. This would be another $22,500 against that overage.
Do we know what all this overtime was?
There were 4 injured on duty officers this year, and that kind of debilitated the force. I think a better explanation would come from the chief, but that's a simple one that I know of. Those 4 officers was quite a bit of staffing or overtime.
Do you know how long they were out?
One was out all year long, Sergeant Gallagher, he was out all year long. The other 3, I believe, were 6-month absences each.
Any further questions?
So I just review. So there's 22,000, how much in the comp that you're gonna move over?
$22,579.
All right, and currently we're at $240,000 and we only budgeted $195.
Correct.
And then again, it's due to police officers being,
Motion by the chair to approve.
23 municipalities in the expired or denied category. As of June 1st, that became 31 municipalities out of 39.
So we're in good company.
Pardon?
I said, so we're in good company.
We're in good country, yes. Some of the best towns in the state.
Yeah.
Under the first bullet, it said the change in submission requirement to June 1st, 2017 rather than July 1st. Now the reason for this is that statewide planning took much longer than they expected to develop their standards for the comprehensive plan. And therefore, they hit the wall with the original 2011 date of June 1st, 2016. So I expected them to get this through by June 1st, so there wouldn't be this limbo situation. But they assured me that statewide planning supports this and it's going to get done, and we will be back in the same situation with another year to do this. As of July 1st, we're going to start putting up the new chapters that Bobby and I have already written. Some of them have been through review for the appropriate agencies. We'll put them on the new section for comp plan and invite public comments. And then we will start a public hearing process with the planning board in late summer and early fall. And then in December or January, we'll start with the town council.
Bob, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many, now you're going to add energy as the new one,
Yes.
development, correct?
Yes.
How many have you and Bobby rewritten to date? Can you just give me a second, write them down? Do we know which ones have been
Yeah,
rewritten?
Bobby has a table for where we are. Of the 14, the big ones, natural resources, open space and recreation, historic, cultural, resource identification, housing, and circulation transportation, they have all been done to a final draft ready for public hearing, review by the appropriate board status. and natural hazards is virtually complete. Community has been written. It may not be the final state that we want, but in general, we're in pretty good shape. You have to remember that the comp plan is a reference book, where we are and what we have and all that, plus recommendations about where we should be going. So developing the reference part has been a major task, and Bobby has done a great job on it. Now, I have explained to the previous town council and to the planning board what the issue of denial was for the previous. I will go into it if you'd like, but I don't think you have time for it. It's all there in the chapter, and there are attachments. And you can actually go on the website and look at the infamous land use map, which is really a future land use map. You can just download it and see how many changes there were actually proposed in the previous comp plan. And we have gotten to some of those. Remember when we did BH for Bridget's Plaza and BH for Quaker Highway, and for different reasons, nobody wanted them. Basically because MU1 was probably better for Bridget's. So that's it, that's the summary. You have the memo.
Yeah,
Any
Bob,
questions?
could you or Bobby, would you mind sending me that table? Because you were so fast, I couldn't even write it out, which elements happening finally.
Oh, sure.
And you're gonna make them?
Yep.
Just a question, why are we gonna wait till July to start looking at this? So we can start looking at it sooner?
Well, I'm looking at the year, this fiscal year is when we're gonna get it finished off, but we can put it up before that if you want.
Yeah, why not? So we can start looking at it.
All right.
See what's done. And if you could just, Bobby, somebody send me that list of which ones you
Yeah.
covered. That'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, Bob, one question. In that packet was a Senate bill
Yes,
relating to that?
yes. That's the new date.
So, I guess we can't, I don't believe we can do this tonight, but I suppose you want us to ask the Senate for responses for passage?
Well, you could, but I'm told it's a sure thing. It has the support of statewide planning.
Well, there's 31 other communities that have, they're in the same.
So we're still utilizing the 06 comp plan, correct?
Yes, and the new comp plan is gonna go from 6/17 to 26. It's gonna be a 10-year comp plan. It's not unusual to think in longer terms and have a 10-year comp plan. In fact, if you think of yourself as a historic rural town, much of what's in there now is going to be continued in the next plan, because when we talk about preserving farmland, that's never going to change. So a lot of what's there is relevant. The things that are important are things like energy, community, energy, environment. So that's what we're doing in that.
My concern is it's kind of been the perfect storm recently, right? We keep hearing about the comp plan or something consistent with the comp plan, but we have the old comp plan, so all of a sudden now that's the hot button topic.
Yes.
So that's why I asked for it to be on the agenda, was because, whether it was the turbine or any other
Right.
development that's going on in town, we keep hearing it's consistent with the comp plan. Actually, even tonight's zone request change, say consistent with the comp plan, but if we're working off something 10 years old, that would be a concern.
This is, again, the preservation of farmland, and that was the driving force, in the renewable energy projects. Okay?
Thank you.
Can I just add one additional step that Bob didn't mention before I put this on the website? All the chapters that I write are also going through a preliminary phase with statewide planning. They have, only one has gone through so far. So I will not be able to put those up yet because I would like them to go through statewide planning first, if that's okay.
Yeah, I don't see the necessity, yes, it has to go to state plan, I get that, but if it's clearly marked draft, I don't see why not people could weigh in on it, right? Can you get it, can you put a text box on draft on every page somewhere, and then we shouldn't have a problem?
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
And the overall issue is we're writing the comp plan for the town. If the state has critiques that want us to be in some statewide equity issue that the town doesn't feel comfortable with, there is no benefit whatsoever to getting state approval. Just remember that in the long run. Okay?
I got a little lost on that.
Yes.
Please explain it to me a little differently.
For example, in 2006, the state says you need to have, by right, 6 dwelling units per acre in one of your zones.
Okay.
So that's turning us into an urbanized area that nobody in town wanted to see happen. Okay? We have options by special use permit for higher densities, but they wanted it by right. So that's a situation where you say, we're doing this for our town, not necessarily for statewide approval. And if you don't get statewide approval, nothing happens. The only benefit to statewide approval is that if they come in with a state project, like they tried to do in Lincoln with the courthouse, they have to respect your town, your comprehensive plan. But that's what we have reps and senators for.
Yep.
So there's really no benefit. And I think you should always focus on the issue of what's best for the town of North Smithfield.
Thank you.
Bob, just one quick question.
Yeah.
Could you just describe cluster development? When you said those 6 units type of thing, cluster development?
No, that's by right, that's not cluster. There's no extra land there put aside. That's six lots per acre.
Yeah, that's like,
Six houses, 6 dwelling units per acre. By right.
Okay, item number F, discussion by council of whether action on moratorium ordinance for ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. Mr. Zwolenski?
yeah, David, is there something that, I didn't have a chance to read you. You sent me a message.
Regarding,
Yeah, should we still move forward with this moratorium, is basically my question.
Again, it really depends on how quickly we think we're going to react to modify the ordinance.
Yeah, now that's coming before planning Thursday, correct, Mr. Ericson?
Next Thursday, yes.
Yeah, you noted, you made comment about, I still refer to it.
You didn't have the strike-throughs in red edition. So David did that, but not in time for the last meeting. What I think we should do is have a discussion about what would allow you and the ORC to feel comfortable about further installations without dropping out RR and RRC as eligible for a special use permit. And what I'm thinking, and this might register, what I'm thinking is it could be RR or RRC, but it has to be a minimum lot size. We do that a lot in zoning with a little number that says it might have to be 10 acres or 20 acres, or it might be so many acres, excess acres per megawatt. And there could be a cap of 2.0 megawatts per farm. But when the landfill is finally cleaned up and approved by EPA, you're going to be able to put a lot in that, nobody will ever see it. So the question is, can we reach agreement and have that agreed upon, those agreed upon terms, tentatively approved by the planning board as being consistent with the comp plan?
Well, this is gonna be, that's a whole new element of the comp plan that you're gonna be looking at, energy, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, the protection of farmland is now the driving force in consistency with the comp plan. And it probably will be even when we do energy sections. I mean, there are other things at work.
Okay.
But if we can work this out, you and I can probably get very close to this.
It's just not me individually.
I know.
It's the ad hoc committee
Right, but
and the council.
I need to know what the major concerns are, because there are ways you can work that out.
What was sent to you by the ad hoc committee, and correct me if I'm, because I haven't attended one, I've been, my career took me out of the loop on that. The only area that ground-mounted solar photovoltaic systems was recommended by the ad hoc committee was just in manufacturing, correct?
Yes,
And no's to everything else.
yes,
Now, but you're arguing that maybe we should do some limited RRC and R, correct?
yes, and
Okay.
prescribe it. But you see, in manufacturing, it's not the highest best use. I mean, the members of the planning board were very concerned about that. And limited commercial is just one small area. Maybe somebody has a backyard there that they could put 200, 300 kW in. But that's really not an available option.
Well, that's why it's going to the planning board. The ad hoc committee took a look at it. I recognize hi, Jim. We had conversation. Do you mind stepping up so I can ask you a few questions? Introduce yourself to everybody and
Mr. President, members of the committee, my name is Frank Epps, Managing Director of Energy Development Partners, located here in North Smithfield, and the current builder of a 2.5 megawatt solar system to be built on the LL&R landfill land this year, approved by the board and power purchase agreement with the town.
Yeah.
What can I be of service?
well, basically, Mr. Epps, you had some concern that this moratorium may have affected your current, which it will not. You're already been reviewed, ready to go. You and I had this discussion, but you did suggest that you'd be able to provide copies of other municipalities' solar farm.
Absolutely. We've had the opportunity and the pleasure to assist other communities in writing their solar ordinances. Middletown, Johnston, we are in the process right now of assisting the town of Hopkinton actually address this exact issue concerning the use of farmland for solar facilities and the restrictions to be placed on them, but still allowing the farms to be able to derive revenue or cost savings from using available land on the farms. And in fact, it was in the West, I was just reading the Westerly Sun paper, today's edition, was speaking specifically about that. I decided to make sure I came here to this council meeting rather than a meeting in Hopkinton tonight, simply because I wanted to ensure that our project was not going to be affected by a moratorium in any way whatsoever. I do understand that that's the case, but we would be willing, without any hesitation, at our pleasure, to assist the planner and the planning board in any way, shape, or form whatsoever.
I appreciate that tremendously. I'm sure Mr. Ericson does as well, planning board members. We discussed possibly you forwarding over those approved zoning ordinances from those communities. If you could send them to Mr. Ericson, myself, I'd like to look at them as well. Ad hoc committee, if you can get it to me electronically, I'll make sure I get it to all the ad hoc committee members as well. And Mr. Ericson, you could disseminate it to the planning board members?
Yeah, so we'll make sure that you have them, let's say by noontime tomorrow.
Thank you, because they're going to be reviewing this on Thursday. We need to move quickly on this. We certainly don't want any contentious things popping up in town, so.
No, but I do support what Mr. Ericson was saying, and I do also believe that finding revenue sources to retain farming here in the state of Rhode Island is of key importance. This is one issue that the farm can either offset costs or gain revenue through leasing, but preservation of farmland is also very important too, so there has to be a good balance between the two.
Well, Mr. Epps, if you'd be so kind, could you also forward copies to our solicitor as well?
Absolutely.
We appreciate that, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mr. Erickson, I thought we already had something that only allowed a 2.5 kilowatt system
Yes,
on a certain amount of land, right? We already do have this, so I don't understand what the moratorium is for.
We have an ordinance that covers ground-mounted solar,
Yeah,
beginning with 250 kW installations. There is no upward cap on it at this point. I would have no problem putting a cap, 2 megawatts, or you just don't want to take farmland and make it all solar. You want to use solar on the marginal part of the farmland to preserve the rest of it. So those kinds of issues we could deal with and avoid any, conflict.
I think what happened, the sticking point, and I can be corrected on all that, was on general requirements 2, location, shall be allowed in general commercial zoning district by special permit. That's where we dropped the ball. We didn't
Yes,
do that.
right.
And so now that was the reason for the moratorium, because
Yes.
then that would, basically the way that stands, and, yeah,
That's the reason we sent it back for reprocessing,
yes.
with the suggestion about what would work. But when it came back, there was some significant changes. And there's nothing wrong with any of them, it's just that I don't think it meets all the needs for massing solar over all the farmland, as opposed to having rules of adjustment for how much of the land you can cover.
Much similar to our zoning of how many accessory uses on anybody's lot.
Exactly.
We can limit that, okay. All right.
Right, so the moratorium is really just in place until we can shore up our own ordinances and create the rules around how we want this in our town.
We're gonna have to go to public, if this can be done by July, we'll remove the moratorium immediately, once it comes before us. So I would just like to see a moratorium in place. As far as the emergency piece of that, if someone wants to question that,
Which I was just about to.
I read that. So the emergency, there's been some dialogue between the administrative solicitor and myself via emails. I haven't seen or spoke with the administrator.
Okay.
But basically, what I would be concerned about, the emergency would be the resources that would be taken by the planning board, zoning board, any legal extra litigation that may arise because of the way this was drawn up and drafted in commercial areas. So if we can just stall it, I hope there's more plans like this out there, but I just want to make sure that it goes smoothly.
Okay.
So.
All right, so it's not that there was something, because I was worried that maybe I missed something, that we had another solar project in the works that was coming before us, and you were trying to stop it.
No,
But no, that wasn't it at all.
I would welcome it. I still have to put my solar panels up on my shed, so
Okay.
small joke.
All
Small
right.
solar panels.
So what we're doing now is deferring on the moratorium and trying to resolve this, because I think if you go through a moratorium, it's gonna be all over the state, beginning with Eco Rhode Island News, and they're gonna pick it up.
Good point. All right.
Especially since we're the start of solarized Rhode Island, right?
So I was talking to the planning chairman tonight and said, yeah, we're gonna be looking at it Thursday, which you've scheduled
Right.
for. Hopefully, do you feel that planning board will be ready to opine by the end of that meeting Thursday night?
Yes?
Beautiful.
Yes, but we need to have some, discussion, we need to have some discussion about what the real concerns are, so we can address those too. We could come back, that night saying, if it is changed to include this, this, and this, it meets the requirement. Now that, the ordinance itself is not gonna be the problem. The issue is the land use change. So if you don't do the land use change, you have to put something in the regular ordinance that prescribes how much of the farmland area you can use, what the cap would be on the sides, etc.
So, is there a need for a moratorium after Thursday night so you can get the land use change squared away?
No, I don't think we need a moratorium at all at this point, because who's gonna finish off a project just because they think there's a moratorium coming? The impact on other people's perception of North Smithfield is gonna be far greater if you put a moratorium on than if you just get it done by next Thursday.
3 nights from now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll withdraw the moratorium.
Oh, wait a minute, not 3
It's
nights from
next
now,
Thursday.
it's the
Oh,
following
it's next
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
All right.
Okay, that would,
Yeah.
This one gentleman had a question. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name's Dan Gear. With my wife, we run the horse farm on Poundville Road. We're interested in solar. We're also interested in selling the development rights to the state. And the reason for that is to get the price of the place down to where a young farmer can take over when we're too old to do it. So let me just offer that as another reason that one would go in this direction, is between the combination of development rights and an income stream, you might get it within reach of a young farmer. A young farmer cannot buy my property as it stands.
Do you mind repeating your name, sir? I didn't catch it.
Dan Geer, G-E-E-R. Phoenix
You
Rising
came
Horse
before,
Farm.
you lived in New York or something, are you the gentleman that moved in from New York? No? Okay, sorry.
No, unless I've got a double somewhere, that would be useful.
Some other handsome man running around somewhere right now. The property is currently listed now for 1 point what? Was it your property?
1.4.
1.4, okay.
Mind you, that is less than we paid for it, inflation corrected,
Okay.
20 years ago.
Not on the agenda, maybe the town should just buy the property, turn it into a learning farm, do solar farms, rent out apartments for Jason so he doesn't have to commute all the way back home in late nights. Sure. Geez, that's a beautiful property you have there, sir.
We're trying hard to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So what's your pleasure?
I'm just gonna withdraw it off the agenda, Mr. President. Remove the moratorium on photovoltaic ground-mounted installations. I'm withdrawing it.
Okay, withdraw the second, move the second.
I'll second.
Second?
Motion by Councilman Zwolenski, second by Councilman Soly. Further discussion, hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ellis? Yes. Mrs. Nato?
Yes.
Mr. Soly?
Yes.
Mr. Zwolenski?
Yes.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Soly,
Second.
second by Councilman Councilwoman Nato, Councilman Zwolenski.
Yeah, just say
Just
counselor.
counselor,
Yes.
Agendas.